Good afternoon. Welcome to Connecting Through Science, an InsideTracker wellness series. Today, we are with Diana, a registered dietitian, and we are going to get to know vitamin D. So it's on everybody's mind right now, and that's why we wrote this ebook, which will be in the comments. It's available. Everybody was asking us about vitamin D right now, so we went and wrote an ebook. Diana, would you please tell us, why do we need vitamin D? Why is vitamin D an important topic?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin that is essential to our well-being. We need it to survive. It's naturally present in some foods in very, very small quantities. Sometimes it's added to other foods. And it's also available as a dietary supplement. But you may have heard of vitamin D as the sunshine vitamin, and that's because it's produced when the UV rays from sunlight strike the skin, and it triggers a vitamin D synthesis. So one of the best sources of vitamin D is from the sunlight. So it used to be thought of that vitamin D was really important just for bone health, right? Because vitamin D, what it does is it helps to absorb calcium. And then together, those two vitamins, minerals, they actually help to create strong, healthy bones. And they do protect you from bone-related diseases later on in life, like osteoporosis. So yes, like that, vitamin D is very important in maintaining bone health. But it goes way beyond that. The benefits are actually, there's really just such a long list of benefits and roles of vitamin D, like the roles of vitamin D in our body. It also increases muscle mass and strength. So studies show that vitamin D acts directly on muscle to increase protein synthesis, which can lead to an increase in muscle mass and also a decrease in the rate of muscle fiber degradation. So it's really important to maintaining that muscle mass, which is important to maintaining an overall healthy weight. It also supports the immune system, which I know we'll get into in more detail later, but it's really important in protecting against certain diseases. So our immune system needs vitamin D to fight off invading bacteria and viruses. So if your vitamin D is low, your immune system may be less effective. So scientists have discovered that vitamin D is really essential in activating our immune defenses, and that without enough intake of the vitamin, our immune cells may not be able to fight off serious infections in the body. So really, really important for immunity.
And that's the reason why we're kind of hearing about vitamin D right now. It's been in the news lately. There's been some recent studies.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of studies, of course, given what's going on. So vitamin D is super important to immunity, as I just discussed, and we can go into why in more detail. So one reason is that it actually has a direct effect on the immune system. So it actually modulates and strengthens different concentrations of various types of white blood cells. So it actually has a direct influence on our ability to fight off infection. White blood cells are the types of cells that help protect us from infection, right?
Right.
So it also, studies have also shown that it can protect our respiratory tract. So there's been various studies that show that people with optimal vitamin D concentrations are actually less likely to experience the common cold, which is a type of a respiratory tract infection. So if you have more optimal levels compared to those that have less than optimal, so low vitamin D, you are in a better position to fight off the common cold and other types of infections, similar infections. And then there was the systematic review, which is a study analyzing many different studies, and they found that vitamin D supplementation can actually protect individuals from acute respiratory tract infections, again, like the common cold. And this was especially true for people who were deficient in vitamin D from the onset. So if you were deficient in vitamin D, you actually were more likely to experience a respiratory tract infection. And it's been in the news lately that actually severe vitamin D deficiency was linked to more severe cases of COVID-19.
Okay. So it's definitely important. It's many roles, from being an athlete to just your immune system as a whole.
Yes.
Where do we get vitamin D? How does now, if vitamin D is now on your radar, how do you know your vitamin D levels, and then how do you go about optimizing that level?
Yeah, so the best way to know your vitamin D levels is to get your blood tested. A simple blood test can tell you if you're optimal, if you're deficient, if you're too high. So it's really, really important. It's a simple blood test. And at InsideTracker, we do recommend keeping your levels above 32 for optimal health, right? So anything below that can actually, like we said, it can be detrimental to your immune system. It could, affect some of those other areas, including something we didn't talk about is sleep, and we can talk about that more too. But making sure you have optimal vitamin D levels will be really important to your overall health. So checking your vitamin D via blood test is the first step, right? Just
don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And then you can see whether taking a supplement is right for you. And vitamin D can be easily corrected with a supplement to maintain optimal levels. So let's say you got a blood test and your levels were optimal. One of the best ways to maintain those optimal levels is to get adequate sunshine, right? So the sunshine vitamin, we want to make sure we're getting a lot of sunshine on a daily basis. But the problem with that is a lot of things can affect our maintaining those vitamin D levels. So, for example, if you are someone who wears a lot of sunblock, which is absolutely fine to do, you want to protect yourself from cancer, but sunblock does affect your ability to synthesize vitamin D and absorb it from the sun.
And it could be just in your moisturizer too, right? Like a light
exactly.
SPF. Okay.
Yeah. And then, to absorb the correct amount from the sun, you want to be out in the sun for at least 20 minutes. And you want to receive that vitamin D, that sunlight that is not tainted, right? So no sunscreen, no shirts, right? So if you wear a long sleeve shirt, if you're fully covered, you're not going to absorb. You're not going to really get that sunshine. You're not going to be able to absorb that vitamin D.
We need to be exposed to the sun. You don't need to just be in the sun. Right?
Exactly. Expose and be in the sun for a little bit of time. So even though, yes, like the best way to get vitamin D is from sunlight, it's not always the easiest way, right? So there's a lot of different factors. And plus, like now that it's turning into summer, it'll be a little bit easier. But again, you just have to worry about those other things we just mentioned. But during the winter months, during the fall months, it can be pretty hard to get that vitamin D production because the UV rays from the sun are a lot weaker, depending on where you live, of course. If you're by the equator, it might be okay. But if you're in Boston like we are, sunlight is not going to be an adequate way to maintain your vitamin D levels.
Right. And if you have to be direct, you can't be under the tree canopies, right? The sun needs to be hitting you, right? I think that's an important distinction. So as a registered dietitian, you've seen people get their blood work and the vitamin D is low. And maybe they don't get enough sun because maybe they're worried about skin cancer, or their lifestyle is not conducive to it. You mentioned supplementation. Mm-hmm. How do you take a vitamin D supplement?
So it's very easy. Once you check your levels, at InsideTracker, we specifically give you a dosage depending on how low or deficient you are in vitamin D. So vitamin D is very safe to take in, doses below 10,000 IU, international units. But of course, the surest way to know how much you should take will be based on your blood levels. But yeah, I see this all the time. And if you are low or deficient, getting 20 minutes of sunlight each day is not going to be enough to lift you up from deficiency. Getting sunlight helps you maintain optimal levels, but it's not going to help you get out of low or deficient levels. So that's when a supplement can be very handy. It can be very effective at getting your vitamin D levels to optimal optimal levels. And, it's important to not overdo it either. A lot of people are, vitamin D has been talked about a lot because of its relation with COVID. And I have seen a lot of people, thinking they need to take these mega doses of vitamin D to
Right. No, you can see it happening. Like, it's good. We're talking about it because it's important. And one thing, people tend to want a lot of it right away, like with vitamin C. And so what is a typical dose of vitamin D supplement?
Yeah, typical doses range from 1,000 to 5,000. Okay. So if you are deficient, 5,000 IU is probably going to be the best way to get you out of deficiency at a faster rate. I wouldn't recommend going above 5,000. I think that's a very reasonable place to start if you are very low or deficient. And then that's why testing your blood is so important, because then you can check again, see how the supplement is working. Is it effective? Are your levels increasing? And then you can start adjusting. You can start adjusting your dosage accordingly. So then you can start lowering it, and then maybe going down to 1,000 or 2,000 to help you just maintain those optimal levels.
Does the body respond quickly to absorbing vitamin D? Like when you're setting your long-term trends, how does that work? Is it a kind of a quick adjustment, or?
So it generally takes a few months before you.
Yeah, it's a long-term. You have to stick to it, and you need to have have a plan.
And again, because vitamin D is not really present in a lot of foods, it's present in just a handful of foods in very small quantities, and because of all the factors we discussed about vitamin D and sunlight, how sometimes it's not always the most adequate way to get your vitamin D. It's just a supplement can be a sure way to make sure you're maintaining your levels.
So, but if I'm going natural with a lot of, just eating to optimize, not saying I'm going to solve all my vitamin D problems by eating, but when in doubt, I want to grab some vitamin D food. What do vitamin D foods look like?
Yeah, so foods with natural or naturally occurring foods with vitamin D are going to include some fatty fish. So salmon and trout are going to be among the best ones. Sardines have some, but not to that same level. I know a lot of people do take cod liver oil. So that is something, it's a more concentrated way of getting your vitamin D as well. You could just do a tablespoon of cod liver oil if you didn't want to do a supplement. And that has, I believe it has almost 2,000 international units of vitamin D in just 1 tablespoon of cod liver oil.
That's old school, right? I believe like cod liver oil is a teaspoon of that. Yeah, okay.
Mushrooms are going to have some, it really, when it comes to mushrooms, it depends on if they've been exposed to the UV lights from the sun. So ones that are actually going to have more vitamin D than ones that are maybe grown in like shaded or wooded areas. And then there are sources that are now fortified with the vitamin. So for example, milk is often now fortified with vitamin D, and a lot of non-dairy milks too. So some soy milks, almond milks, just important to read the labels to see.
And what does that mean that they fortify it? Is it
they add the supplement they add the vitamin straight to that food.
So you're kind of taking a supplement when you're eating fortified foods. That's really interesting because it's never kind of explained that way.
Yeah, it's in dosages, much lower dosages usually than what you would take in a pure supplemental form. But yeah, basically it's essentially same thing.
We really appreciate you explaining this to our audience, our Facebook group here. We appreciate you all, and we believe knowledge is power. We want to get you. There's a lot of studies going on right now. There's a lot of information coming out. There's choices to make each day to help you be who you want to be, to optimize yourself towards your goals. And vitamin D, wouldn't you say, Diana, is looking pretty important one to keep on the radar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important for overall health and immunity.
So that's why we wrote the ebook, Get to Know Vitamin D. It's available. We'll put it in the comments below. We hope you download it, and we hope you share that. And we hope you share this episode of Connecting Through Science. Diana, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And one more thing about the ebook too, for anyone looking just to get some more information about vitamin D, the ebook is a great place to really learn more about its effect in our overall health and its direct effect in our immunity. And then if you do want some recipes that do have vitamin D in them, we've included about 10 different recipes in this ebook, and they're delicious. I've tried a few, so definitely recommend
Great
downloading
resource.
the ebook.
No, it's all about having options and making choices and trying to perform at your best. So thank you again, Diana, and have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jason.